Winning the lottery changes lives. You're thrown into a world where you can afford anything you've ever wanted. But sometimes the idea pushes people to do some pretty wild stuff. So what happens when winners get too greedy and try to cheat the system? Let's check out some dumb lottery winners who tried to pull a fast one and ended up failing miserably. Number 15. The Stolen Ticket. Back in 2012, Michaela Fields, who was a community college student from North Carolina, believed she had won $1 million from a lottery ticket. She claimed her prize on July 2nd. At that time, she was imagining how she would spend the money on a new house, a car, and her nursing education. However, her whole reality changed when it was revealed that the jackpot was not exactly by the book. Turns out her husband, Sean Mewherter, who worked at Kangaroo Express, was involved in this scenario of cheating the lottery. He was accused of getting the winning ticket from the store where he worked. Instead of celebrating a legit win, they ended up on the wrong side of the North Carolina Education Lottery, who sniffed out the scheme pretty quickly. The local police in Oak Island acted quickly. They charged Sean with larceny and possession of stolen goods valued over $100,000. Despite the charges against her husband, Michaela herself was not charged. The situation raised questions about the integrity of their claim to the lottery prize. There's been no news about whether they got to spend any of that cash, but the lottery officials decided to put the reclaimed money back into the prize pool for a future game. Just goes to show that sometimes trying to outsmart the system is a gamble all its own. Sometimes your tricks can even backfire, just like what happened with this guy. Number 14. Lottery loophole backfired. A 70-year-old from McClellan Town, Sherman Friend, really thought he had the system beat. Back on December 17, 2009, he won the lottery by purchasing 208 tickets. Each ticket had the same number, 1127. Luck was on his side during Pennsylvania's midday Big Four drawing. Each ticket won, bringing in $2,500 apiece. Now, he could have gone to the officials himself to cash the tickets. That would have been the right way, but instead of cashing the tickets himself, Sherman turned to over 20 friends for help so that they could cash his tickets. He decided to avoid the heavy taxes that came with his $520,000 win. Sherman's friends recruited others, expanding the group of ticket cashers even further. For their help, each friend got $250 per ticket, which was 10% of each winning. Sherman's strategy was simple. He spread out the winnings to avoid detection by tax authorities. His hope was that the IRS would not trace the winnings back to him. However, his scheme to outsmart the tax system was flawed. Authorities eventually caught up with him. The last time we heard of him, Sherman was facing the possibility of up to 1.5 years in prison. His attempt to dodge federal income tax through a lottery loophole was a risky move that did not pay off. Something similar happened to this next duo. Number 13. Jackpot Jail Time. Jason Wedderburn and K.N. Kitson are two individuals from Jamaica. These two masterminds devised a fraudulent plan to exploit people by convincing them they had won the lottery. Their method was to tell potential victims that in order to collect these supposed winnings, they first needed to pay taxes or fees up front. One victim from Massachusetts ended up paying more than $325,000, while others lost tens of thousands of dollars. The money from these victims was deposited into bank accounts that Wedderburn and Kitson controlled. Upon receiving the payments, they would move to other accounts, managed by members of their group in both Jamaica and the United States. As expected, no victim ever received the promised lottery winnings. Now, you must be thinking, how could someone be so naive to believe their scam? Well, they mainly targeted elderly individuals who fell prey to their sweet deals. The duo ended up collecting over $700,000 from their schemes. The operation came to an end when Wedderburn and Kitson were arrested in Florida in August 2020. Since their arrest, they've been held in detention. Currently, both Wedderburn and Kitson are in federal prison. There's a lesson here for all of us. Never forget that legitimate lotteries do not ask winners to pay fees before receiving their prizes. So if anyone asks you to do so, then you know it's a scam. Number 12. Scratch Scam. One day, a man in Minnesota realized that his $15 winning scratch ticket was already redeemed. He took his complaint to the Minnesota State Lottery. They started an investigation that uncovered a deeper scheme at the Casablanca Market in Hopkins. Let's see what it was. The customer had bought his scratch ticket at the Casablanca Market. He was surprised when told at a lottery booth that his ticket was no longer valid. The lottery security was intrigued by this, so they went through the transaction records of the Casablanca Market and noticed an unusual pattern of manual validations of scratch tickets. This pattern of activity raised suspicions of micro-scratching. If you don't know, micro-scratching is a subtle fraud technique. It involves using a tiny, sharp tool to scratch off a minuscule part of the ticket's protective layer. This is done to look at the validation code without making noticeable marks. This code, along with the barcode, can confirm if a ticket is a winner. To get to the bottom of this, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety's Alcohol and Gambling Enforcement Division was brought in. They conducted undercover operations at the market. An agent repeatedly purchased scratch tickets while her colleagues monitored any use of the validation codes. Through surveillance and investigative work, the agent identified Murad Zahi, a 34-year-old clerk, as the suspect. After witnessing him engage in suspicious activity on camera, they executed a search warrant. They observed Zahi removing tickets, disappearing from camera view, and then returning shortly after. This is what someone would have been doing if they wanted to discreetly check tickets. Eventually, Zahi was charged with multiple counts of lottery fraud and gambling-related offenses. His subtle scam, starting from a single complaint about a $15 ticket, had uncovered a big fraudulent operation. In his defense, he was just trying to win the lottery, but apparently winning cannot save you from going to jail. Just hear the story of this next dumb criminal. Number 11. Winner's Downfall. In June 2010, Fick thought he had his life made when he won approximately $2 million from Michigan's Make Me Rich lottery. He went for the lump sum option and received around $850,000. Unfortunately, handling such a large sum proved to be more than Fick could manage. Friends and family quickly flocked to him and took advantage of his newfound wealth. About a year after his windfall, trouble found Fick in the form of a routine traffic stop in Chippewa Township. Isabella County Sheriff's deputies discovered prescription painkillers in his possession. It turned out Fick was dealing with pain issues and had friends who were all too willing to supply him with medication, not all of it legally obtained. Eventually, he pleaded guilty on December 8, 2012 to possession of hydromorphone and driving on a suspended license. But Fick's legal troubles did not stop there. He also faced misdemeanors for having illegal fireworks and some traffic violations, including speeding dramatically over the limit, driving without insurance, and even letting an unlicensed friend take the wheel. After about a month and a half behind bars and a year on probation, plus a pile of court fines, it became clear to Fick that a lottery jackpot is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. But only if this next dumb criminal knew that before. Now, we know you're not anything like these guys, so if you're already trying your luck by playing the lottery, you might as well play it from the comfort of your own home. Check out the best platform to do so in the link in the description below. Let's move on. Number 10. The Delayed Draw. Leandra Williams is a resident of Illinois who devised a plan to cash in on a massive lottery payout, but things didn't go quite as she hoped. Williams aimed to claim a share of the record $656 million Mega Millions jackpot with a ticket she purchased online. The clever part was that she bought the ticket 8 minutes after the winning numbers were already announced. This was not her first attempt at deception. Earlier that week, she had been charged with wire fraud for falsifying documents. Now she attempted theft and forgery. After purchasing the ticket, she walked into the lottery claims office in Des Plaines on April 4, 2012. She confidently presented a ticket for the March 30th Mega Millions draw. Although her ticket displayed the winning numbers, lottery officials were suspicious. Records confirmed there were only 3 winners, and none were from the Chicago area. Further investigation revealed that her ticket was purchased just after 10 p.m. on March 30th, clearly after the draw. She even produced an altered email receipt to back her claim. Lottery officials played along and asked her to fill out a claim form for verification, which would be sent to Springfield. She submitted her form and fraudulent documents. On April 16th, when she returned for a follow-up, lottery officials and police arrested her. So yeah, it's almost impossible to deceive the lottery officials. Number 9. Dumb Addict. In 2009, Michael Santaniello from Chelmsford hit the jackpot. He won $1 million from the Massachusetts State Lottery. He's also the owner of Mike's Oil Heat Service in Chelmsford and seemed set for life, especially with an extra 23 grand in lottery winnings over the next couple of years. Despite this, Santaniello found himself in a tough spot due to a gambling addiction. The problem? Even though he was getting about 35 grand a year after taxes from his lottery win, it wasn't enough to satisfy his gambling habits. This led him down a shady path where he started to cheat his own customers. Santaniello took deposits from more than a dozen clients, promising repairs on home oil tanks and burners that he never delivered on. Many of these clients were elderly, making the deceit even more terrible. Eventually, his actions caught up with him. Santaniello was busted and had to face the consequences. He was ordered to pay back the money to clients from various towns, including Chelmsford and Billerica, and also served time in prison. Number 8. Wrong investment. In 2015, Ronnie Music Jr. won $3 million from a scratch-off ticket in the Georgia lottery. But instead of investing in a brighter future, Music took a shocking turn into the criminal underworld. He got involved in a multi-state drug trafficking operation. The operation was part of a ring run from a Georgia prison, and he used his lottery winnings to fund it. He also turned to substances like alcohol, MJ, coke, and eventually meth. His criminal activities came to a head in October 2014 when he was caught with 4 pounds of meth and 22 grand in cash. Besides drug trafficking, Music also faced charges for illegally possessing firearms as a convicted felon. During his trial, Music provided important information about others involved in the drug ring. In return for his cooperation, the government recommended a lighter sentence than the guidelines suggested, which could have been up to 33 years. Ultimately, Music was fined 25 grand and sentenced to 5 years of probation, and he expressed remorse to the court and his family for his actions. Number 7. A murderer father. In May 2011, a tragic incident happened outside a Detroit apartment building owned by Greg McNichol, who was an Australian native. McNichol was caught in a heated argument with a tenant over 2 months of overdue rent. The situation escalated quickly, especially with the presence of the tenant's father. Her father was not a nobody. He was a 63-year-old man who had recently won a substantial amount in the lottery. This man was Freddie Young. Young and his lottery club had shared a $46 million jackpot. Each member was supposed to receive $1.6 million in a cash payout. Outside that building, the argument escalated rapidly. During the heated moment, Young accidentally fired a gun. The shot tragically killed McNichol. After the incident, Young was arrested and later found guilty of second-degree murder by a jury. Following the tragedy, McNichol's widow filed a wrongful death lawsuit, which led to a judge freezing Young's lottery winnings. If only Young had contained his anger, none of this would have happened. But winning the lottery makes you do crazy things, like what this next winner did. Number 6. Old habit. In 2012, Amanda Clayton, a Michigan lottery winner, seems to have her financial problem solved after getting 735 grand in a lottery win. However, despite the money, she continued to collect food stamps and public health insurance. Clayton was the second person in Michigan to be caught improperly using food stamps as a lottery winner. She faced charges for not reporting her changed financial status to the state after winning a $1 million prize on the game show Make Me Rich. Apparently, she had won $1 million and opted for a lump sum payout of 735 grand before taxes. Over the following 8 months, she collected $5,475 in food and medical benefits. She defended herself by saying she thought she was still eligible for food aid because she was unemployed at the time. However, it was unethical and illegal. Some commit fraud after winning and some commit it before, like this next couple. Number 5. The criminal couple. Jackie Parsley II and Ashley Campbell Parsley were two family members who tried to cash a fraudulent lottery ticket. Their scheme involved not only the manipulation of lottery tickets to falsely claim winnings, but also the laundering of money to conceal the money they gained illegally. Their misdeed escalated into significant charges. There was a 3-day trial in Indiana, and in the end, they were both convicted of false passing of a lottery ticket, theft, and 5 counts of money laundering. The case exposed their dumb strategy to the whole world. This incident demonstrated the consequences of such criminal activities and told the world that you can never get away with it. Number 4. The Hot Lotto Scandal. Eddie Tipton was a former information security director for the Multi-State Lottery Association, who pulled off one of the largest lottery frauds in U.S. history. He secretly installed software that allowed him to predict winning numbers on specific days of the year. Over several years, Tipton rigged lottery drawings in multiple states and made more than $24 million. The scheme was exposed when surveillance footage from a 2010 jackpot purchase in Iowa showed Tipton buying a winning ticket. This led to an investigation that uncovered the depth of his deceit. Tipton was arrested in 2015, and during his trial, he admitted to rigging the system. He was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 25 years in prison. There was another defrauder like him who thought he would never get caught. Number 3. The clever Ponzi scheme. Victor Jonai orchestrated a Ponzi-like scheme to make money. He tricked investors into investing in profitable real estate. He convinced people to pour millions into his scheme by promising significant returns. Jonai managed to raise over $26 million from unsuspecting investors. But what he would do was purchase lottery tickets. There was even a time when he would purchase tickets at the rate of once every 8 seconds in the hope of purchasing the winning ticket. Now, how did he pay back the investors? Well, instead of generating returns through legitimate means, he used new investors' money to pay off earlier investors, creating the illusion of success. His scheme eventually collapsed when he could no longer sustain the payouts. In 2020, Jonai pleaded guilty to wire fraud as a result of his actions. He was sentenced in 2021 to 53 months in federal prison. Number 2. Glue them together. In 2010, two guys from Mississippi, Otis Latham and Russell Sparks, tried a pretty bold move to win the lottery. They actually glued winning numbers onto a losing ticket, hoping to win a $100,000 prize. They signed this patched-up ticket and handed it in, thinking they might actually get away with it. But let's be real. That plan wasn't gonna work. The lottery officials caught on immediately. It was pretty obvious that something was off with the ticket. Because of this, both men were arrested. They faced charges for trying to pass off a fake ticket and for plotting together. Latham got an extra charge for giving fake ID information. Latham had to cough up a $51,000 bond, and Sparks was stuck with a $20,000 bond. Their attempt was a major flop, turning what they hoped would be a payday into a pretty embarrassing story and a lot of legal trouble. While these two tried to scam the lottery itself, this next dumb criminal scammed innocent people. Number 1. Old victims. Martin Hogan was the Canadian mastermind behind a cruel telemarketing scheme a few years ago. He targeted the elderly in the U.S., tricking them into thinking they'd won the Canadian lottery. From Canada, he would call up these seniors and spin a tale about needing to pay taxes or fees before they could get their winnings. Believing they were just a step away from a fortune, some victims even sent cash to addresses in New York, which were linked to Hogan's partners in crime. This cash would then be smuggled across the border back to Hogan in Canada. By the time the scam was uncovered, Hogan had taken over $2.6 million from these elderly victims. His lavish lifestyle caught up with him while he was vacationing in Jamaica. At the request of the U.S., Jamaican authorities arrested him, and he was extradited back in January 2021. For his crimes, Hogan was sentenced to 111 months in prison. But let's not get too caught up in the darker side of lottery stories. While we've seen a lot of dumb and foolish schemes, not everyone makes bad decisions. Some lottery winners were so clever and calculated, they left everyone, including the lottery officials, completely amazed. Make sure to watch our next video where we'll reveal the smartest lottery winners ever. You'll be surprised at just how ingenious some winners can be.